going to turn the microphone over now to Will Pomerantz.
All right. Hi everyone. Everyone enjoyed their meal? Yeah. Who got the beef and is anyone still hungry? A big piece of beef. I'm Will Pomerantz. I work at Virgin Galactic now, but more importantly, I'm a SEDS alum. I'm a SEDS trustee. I love my job, I love my career, and I can honestly say I owe it all to joining SEDS by lucky coincidence my freshman year of college. So it's a real honor to be here and talking to you all. Before I begin, could I ask all of the students from UB SEDS to stand up quickly? Let's give these guys a gallon. You know, I'll admit I was born in Buffalo, and even when I heard that this next conference was going to be in Buffalo, I was like, really? Buffalo? In November? Okay. Let's see how that goes. But it's gone great. It's really been a tremendous list of speakers, including but not limited to our guest speaker tonight. From start to finish, it's been a good show. I hope you're all having a good time. I certainly am. You know, the theme of the conference this year is Crossroads, which I think is a great theme. Whoever chose it, I don't know. Good job. Because I think the space industry is at a crossroads. But the problem is that the public doesn't realize we're at the crossroads. They think we're at a dead end, which is incorrect. You know, you all have probably experienced this when you talk to your family back home, your high school friends, even your roommates. I'm sure someone has told you, but NASA is canceled. I hope that you're not shy in correcting them that. Because they're going to go on believing that until someone who's passionate about it, so someone who works in the career or works in the industry, wants to work in the industry, takes the time. Because don't count on, no offense to the members of the media here, don't count on the media to disillusion them of that. The media sort of illusioned them of that, if I can coin a phrase. So take the time to tell them what is going on in space and tell them why you're excited about it. Nothing conveys passion like passion. I was just talking with a gentleman sitting next to me tonight who I'll introduce later, and he said, which I think is very true, when people get excited about a cause, they don't get excited about what you're doing, they get excited about why you're doing that. And that's definitely true of space. Tell them why you took your weekend to go away from your home school, or you took a lot more than one weekend to plan a conference to come hang out with other space geeks. Tell them why that was worthwhile to you, and I think you'll find that that's a very effective thing. I want to do a little bit of audience participation to make sure everyone can hear me. Can I ask, please raise your hands if any of you have ever worked at NASA. All right, it's a pretty good percentage. Now, we're not done yet. You have to keep raising hands. Stretch a little bit if you need to. How many of you have ever dreamed of working at NASA? Have any of you raise both hands if you ever literally had a dream where you were working? We got a couple of those. Well, that's good. I know you're going to enjoy our speaker tonight. Hopefully you've also recognized, I can't remember the last time I've been to any space conference, not just a SpaceVision, where there have been this many senior leaders from NASA. It's really impressive. And that to me says something about the students who organized it. It says something about you. It also says something about the kind of people who came. They all had other options of places to be on a Friday night or a Saturday night. They all have kids, they all have spouses, they all have tons of work sitting on their desk, and they took the time to be here, which means that they care about you, not in that standard way that everyone says they care about kids. In the way that they generally are putting their money where their mouth is, and they're putting their time out, because they want to talk to you. They want to see, it's the same reason I come to SpaceVision every year, whether my job sends me or not, because I get excited to talk to you. You ask me the best questions, and the look of excitement on your face makes me feel better about my job and why I bust my butt. So I hope you've taken advantage of that. Can I do a little bit more participation here? How many of you, because of something you heard this weekend or in the run-up to SpaceVision, have changed your minds about what you want to do in your life? All right. That's a worthwhile conference if anyone raised their hands. This is a pretty good number. How many of you have talked to someone at a company that you want to work for or a space agency you want to work for? You picked a good conference country. How many of you have gotten a business card from that person and have already sent them a follow-up email or at least closing it? If you haven't done that, do that. How many of you have passed out a resume? All right, a couple. If you didn't this year, think about doing it next year. It's not tacky. People who come to this conference, a lot of them are here because we want to hire young people. That's why a lot of the companies here, everyone who has a booth in the exhibit hall, that's why they're here. Companies that send executives, it's because they know that companies that have an edge in the future, NASA to maintain its leadership in this industry, we need the best and the brightest. You heard from Alan Ladwick today, you heard from lots of other people out the weekend, the average age of this industry, the number of people who are going to be retiring over the coming years. We have big seats to fill, and we can't fill them with just anyone. We need to fill with people who are really smart, really passionate, people who have the SEDS badge on their lapel. It's the key thing. Has anyone formed a business this weekend or come up with the idea for a new business they want to start? All right, awesome. Wow, this table had a good dinner. Was it tonight? Did it just happen like just now? Are we witnessing? All right. Later on, a few drinks later. Okay. Anyone come up with an idea for an experiment they're going to propose to Flight Opportunities Program? Does anyone have my talk? All right, there you go. Awesome. This is great that these answers are yes. I'm about to yield the stage to our guest speaker, but the last message that I'm going to give you is be bold. That's one of the exciting things about being young. You are bold. It's part of your personality. Even if you think of yourself as shy, because, I don't know, you're an engineer, you're willing to take risks. You are the perfect point in your life to take risks. This is the time, very few of you are married, even fewer of you have children. This is the time when you can go for that job that sounds crazy, that your parents will say, why on earth are you doing that job? Because you're passionate about it, because it might pay out, because it might give you something that you can't get by going into banking. No offense to our bankers, we've got at least one here. It's harder to take those risks when you're in your 30s and harder still in your 40s because you've got a family to support. You have to be a little bit more conservative. You can be bold now. And bold might mean starting your own business like table number, whatever table number this is. But 13, lucky number 13. It also means don't be shy. Take advantage of these opportunities you're getting here at SpaceVision. Go and talk to that speaker and ask them a question. Even if you're worried it might be a dumb question, if you're worried that she's already heard it a million times, ask the question anyway. Ask for that business card. Send them an email. Remind them where you met them. I met you at SpaceVision. I really enjoyed your talk about X, Y, and Z. I was the young person who asked you about X, Y, and Z, and I really want to work for you. Are you willing to be my mentor? Are you willing to give me an internship? I'll come work for you for free, or at least really cheap. That's the other nice part about being a student. Those of you who raised your hands when I asked, have you always dreamed of working at NASA? If you don't come up and talk to our guest speaker after tonight, if you haven't already, you're not doing yourselves any favors. You're not going to get that opportunity all the time. When you go back to your university, unless any of you are here from George Washington or something right next to NASA headquarters, you're not going to just get to have dinner with a guy like this. Or like the other wonderful speakers that we've had throughout the weekend. So if you haven't done it, do it tonight, do it tomorrow. Come prepared to do it next year. And come prepared to do it when you host a SpaceVision a couple of years from now or next year, whatever it is. That's a great way. I got the first job that I truly loved, I got by helping host a conference. I wasn't even running it. I was playing a small part in it, and that's what mattered. So if you don't remember anything else I say, I hope you'll remember, be bold. You're students. We're here because we love talking to students, and take full advantage of that. So with that, I want to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Robert Lightfoot. Robert is the Associate Administrator at NASA. Now that is the highest ranked, period, civil servant at the entire agency at NASA. The number one. This is a pretty cool guy here. You got a good chance to hand him a resume, get a business card. I don't know how many business cards you got, but my goal is that you don't have any left. He's been in that job at headquarters for a few months now. But before that, was running Marshall Space Flight Center. How many of you have been to Marshall Space Flight Center or Space Camp for internships? Okay, I hope the rest of you will go there in the future. It's a center that's doing a lot of amazing things. He's got a distinguished bio, which a lot of you have seen in your program, so I won't insult your intelligence by just reading it to you, but just to hit another few key points. We were chatting at dinner. I know he feels about students the way that the other speakers here have, is why I didn't mind saying this. Hopefully he has been glaring daggers at my back while I've been saying it. He also has gotten to do some pretty amazing things. He was in DC for several years working on the return to flight program, and I was asking him, what was that like? And it's a job that was not necessarily just an engineering job, it was a job about leadership. He's a recipient of some distinguished leadership awards, and it's a job that's about communications. He has a job that to me seems unfathomably difficult, which is he had to explain how NASA works to members of Congress. Anyone know how many members of Congress are engineers? Or doctors? Yeah, I think it's zero. I might be wrong, but I think zero are engineers, and very few of them have a technical degree of any kind. So anyone who can do that, or is even willing to try, certainly has earned my admiration. And it tells me that he's going to be a very effective communicator. So please give him your full attention. He's going to chat for, I think, just 15 minutes or so, and then we'll leave us lots of time for questions. So without further ado.
All right, well, good evening. It is great to be here. One thing Will didn't say is I'm just going to get it out of my system now. I'm a University of Alabama grad, and I'm hurting a little bit tonight because Texas A&M. So all you Aggies out there, congratulations. So my Johnson Space Center friends have been lighting me up all night, reminding me that I think I said something probably that I shouldn't have earlier in the year, like welcome to the SEC, and they said they're glad to be here. So it is great to be here tonight, and Will, thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate it, and Mary, thank you so much for harassing all of us and sneaking in. We got all these rules going on right now in the agency that are pretty funny, related to conferences, and Mary somehow managed to get around that. That's why I got so many senior leaders here. And you did great getting everybody here. And really the reason we're here is because you guys are our future. You guys are going to, hopefully one of you will be standing here one day, giving a speech to the next generation of folks that are talking. I think if you look at the agenda that you guys had for the week, it is truly a microcosm of the space business today. It is different. It's really an incredible and exciting time for you guys to be entering this field. Challenging too. I think that's always been true. We've been through cycles. When you get into this business, it can be frustrating. So be ready for that, but it can also be the most rewarding thing you'll ever do. I can't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I'm a space geek at heart, and I think what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through what I think you guys have in front of you. And to do that, though, I think it's important that you look back. Right? You look back and you get kind of a feel for what the past is. And we'll talk a little bit about the present, but most of you have heard that all week. I saw the agenda. I'll touch on some things and I'll explain to you what we're doing. But people like you willing to take on the job to push the boundaries, right? Powered flight, breaking the sound barrier, suborbital and orbital rocketry. Everybody okay back there? All right, good. Satellites, space probes, human spaceflight, and all that has come in a very short period of time. Think about it. The grand scheme of things, this has all happened in a very short period of time. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the future and maybe expanding your theme a little bit. The imagery of a crossroads has always been very powerful, very powerful. And I think it's appropriate with the successful missions this year that we've had in so many different areas with SpaceX and with the Curiosity, everything we've done. There's a lot about crossroads that's important, but I'm gonna add on to crossroads. I think the term crossroads is sometimes used to suggest a little bit of an either-or choice. And what I would suggest to you is that there are many possible roads, not just a crossroads, and roads that didn't even exist when I was a student like you were. If you go back when I was graduating, it was either NASA or a contractor for NASA. That's really all that was there if you wanted to get in this business. And I think today it's not simply government or just government. It's now government or commercial and human and robotic. You've got all sorts of choices that you can make that will help us explore space. I think that the roles have evolved and will continue to evolve. Look at the enthusiasm around the Mars Curiosity. I mean, I assume most everybody in this room watched that. If you didn't, you missed it. You missed an incredible event. But then think about the great pride and nostalgia around two people that none of y'all probably knew and probably weren't even born when they did what they did. Neil Armstrong's passing and the passing of Sally Ride. Two great heroes. And what it told me, the clear message, and then let me add on one other thing, the sending of the space shuttles to the museums, the ones we have left. The outpouring of this public. Did you know that the space shuttle that we put out in Los Angeles at the Science Center, that the crime rate dropped during the time period? Seriously, the chief of police out there was really worried because they were going to have so much traffic control. The crime rate dropped. And that's why all these people were out there to see it. And they treated it with such respect. You know, we didn't want anybody to think, we were worried people were going to do something to it, pass it through there, but nobody did. Great respect. And what I got out of that was that America wants us to do this, right? We are going to be a spacefaring nation. We're going to continue that. There's all sorts of other examples you can go into, and again, expendable versus reusable, moon versus Mars. It's easy to pick one road, right? And that's what you do when you get to a crossroads. But I think it's a pretty complicated business we're in. It's a complicated world. I think there's a lot of different roads that you guys can do. Technology is going to evolve. National policy will evolve. This will be an interesting one for you guys as you get older and you start, and that pure passion that I see in all of you. I mean, I know a lot of you from Marshall. Several of you were there with me at Marshall. You guys have an undaunted passion. I like what Will said. You can be bold. I'll just tell you to keep that boldness even when you start learning how the world works with policy. Don't let it take that boldness away. There are days when it will. But what I would argue is that sometimes the crossroads, as Will said, it looks like a dead end, or sometimes it's a clover leaf, right? So you can run into that. So I think there's just many roads to the objectives we're going to do. So let me look back a little bit, and I'll go back some. I think it's helpful, and in order to do that, I want to just share a little bit about me, because I was trying to figure out a way to talk about the past. And I got to thinking, I'm about 50, which just drives me crazy to even say, because I think I'm like you guys age, right? I still do, even though I have kids that are you guys age. Anyway, that's painful. I think that's the first time I've ever said that in a speech. Really, that's it. So what I did is I said, and I'm sorry I'll get this wrong, but I said you guys are probably about 20, right? So just work with me because the numbers are easy, 50, 20, right? That means about 30 years. So what I did is I look back 30 years, and I look back what I've done in my career, and what I've been able to be part of, okay? And when I say everything I'm going to tell you, I've been part of with a bunch of people, and I'm going to talk about that as we go through this, and what a great opportunity you guys have. My first job out of college was testing O-rings after the Challenger disaster. I spent 1 whole year testing O-rings, trying to figure out what the right O-ring was we should use to replace the one that brought Challenger down, okay? And I walked into that test program, no idea what an O-ring was. I mean, seriously, I can remember one of my technicians, and this will be a bit of a lesson for you. I remember one of my technicians walking up and giving me a solenoid valve, a Murata MD 543. I'll never forget it as long as I live. He said, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "No." Right? And it was and I'm telling you, I don't know is a very important phrase. Okay? Because I said, I don't know. And I'll never forget what he said. He goes, well, I'll be nice. He said, GED college. Okay? And he leaves. And I went, well, that went well. I'm off to I mean, that's a week into this, right? And so he comes back and he brings me one of these solenoids, and he brings me a hand regulator, he brings me a dome loader, brings me all the stuff I'm going to be needing. And he brings me a set of tools. He says, let's take them apart. Because if you're going to work with me, you're going to know what you're giving me to work on. Right? And I'll tell you, I learned more from that guy in the first year of running and being on test stand than I ever did in college. I know that amazes you guys, but that's where I learned. That's where I really learned. I did tell him I could calculate the flow to that cylinder. But then I got to run the Space Shuttle Main Engine Test Program. Pretty cool stuff. You know, when you get to tell people we're gonna, you know, let's go ahead and run the test, and you run a Space Shuttle Main Engine for 200 and something seconds, and and you're kind of in charge, that's pretty cool, right? I got to run all the testing. I got to test the RD-180, the engine that flies on the bottom of the Atlas rocket today, the Russian engine. So all these different things, I got to run organizations, I got to lead groups to do that. But in my time, think about this now. Go back in 30 years and think. We flew this, is that what I mean? It was. Bad, shame on me. All right, go back about 30 years, and this will be okay. And think about what's happened in 30 years. And this is what's going to lead to what I want you guys to think about. We finished the shuttle. Okay, we flew it approximately 125 times in 30 years, the last 30 years. We managed to complete the International Space Station. An incredible human achievement. I mean, I would argue that the International Space Station, the engineering achievement by the International Space Station, was more difficult than going to the moon with what we're doing today. I would argue that, and I think it's true. Hubble, you ever heard of that? Chandra, the X-ray, Kepler, Planet Finder. All the rovers on Mars, including Curiosity. The first commercial berthing to the International Space Station with SpaceX, right? This is just the last 30 years, right? And it seems like forever. And people say, maybe it's too slow. And I'm leaving stuff out, right? So it's really pretty unbelievable. So if you think about where we are today, and then when we get to Will's comment about the fact that now that we're not flying the shuttle, there is no NASA, which is pretty scary for me because I think I have a child. I'm beating my head against the wall on a lot of stuff that, with my friends in the policy world, that I think we're pretty busy. And so let me just share with you. You've heard it this week. I mean, I saw almost a lot of my colleagues came and told you what they're doing. So but I'm just going to zip through some stuff pretty quickly. You know, you think about where we are. We are now on a good course. We've gotten through a lot of the stuff from retiring the shuttle and from the canceling of Constellation. And we're heading in a direction that Congress and the President agreed to. So, and that's important. Remember, Congress and the President have to agree. Or in my world, we don't get to do much from a NASA standpoint. We're working on all sorts of things. We're balancing a near-term kind of mission-driven technology approach with these transformative technologies for the long run. Things that we can do for the long term. You know, we really got to bring the cost down. There's not, I mean, just someday pick up your head. I tell my daughter who's a senior at Alabama, and you know, I tell her she's got to get out of her bubble every once in a while and look up, right? And look at the economy. The economy's not great, right? So there's not going to be any great influx here, but we got to get smarter, and that's why we need you guys to come into this field and help us get smarter on how to do this stuff. Challenges, right? Beat us old guys up a little bit. Tell us why you do it that way. Right? That's the boldness that you have to bring. And when we're hard-headed about it, you've got to keep telling us. Look at the International Space Station. It's kind of the core of our human spaceflight experience right now. We're on the International Space Station. We've been there almost 12 years now. Somebody's been on the station for almost 12 years. We're 400 scientific studies a year. You were here and saw Peggy talk to you earlier this week. You know, I'm sure she told you about the experience she had as being the commander up there. One of the coolest days was when Peggy was there as the commander of Space Station and Pam Melroy flew the shuttle up. 2 female commanders. How awesome was that? That was a great day for us. It's also helping us understand human health issues. You know, this whole being in microgravity, which looks really cool on TV and all that, kind of causes some problems with folks, and we need to understand that, especially if we're going to go to Mars. If we're going to get outside of low Earth orbit, we need to understand what's happening to the human body. Because you don't want to send somebody to Mars and they get off the spaceship and they can't do anything. You know, that'd be pretty bad. But it also exercises something that's kind of interesting. It's the relationships with the international community. I mean, it's an awesome example of international cooperation at a time when there's so much global strife. That's a great, unbelievable process. The partnerships we're having with our U.S. commercial industry, if you think about what's going on there, SpaceX, like I said, birthing with the station. Orbital now, hopefully, after Sandy threw another blowout in there on the Virginia coast, they're getting ready to launch their Antares launch vehicle. Dream Chaser has done some captive carry tests. That's going to be the Sierra Nevada piece. And Boeing's got their Liberty. Those are all things we're working on. And commercial is going to take over that low Earth orbit for us. That's what we want them to do, from an agency standpoint. I want them to take over the low Earth orbit so I can get going with getting out of low Earth orbit, right? And getting us closer and closer to Mars. So we've heard from the SLS and the Orion folks this week, talking about what they're trying to do toward getting to our first launches there, right? And we're making good progress in all those areas. We just continue to press, trying to fly by 2017 if we can get there. We're working on a new integrated strategy for Mars. What are we going to do with Mars, right? We've got the Curiosity. How do we take that passion that you saw from Curiosity? How do we bring that into the next phase? When do you go? And Mars is interesting. That's another one of those things that I learned. Like I said, I'm just a test guy, right? Just run tests, rocket engine tests for the most part. So I'm learning a lot about things like there's certain years where it's pretty important to try to get to Mars. 2018 happens to be one because of the way it all lines up, right? When they say the stars align and the planets align, it's some pretty important stuff from a orbital mechanics perspective in terms of how you get there. So we continue to work on that whole plan with Mars, and hopefully we'll build off what we're doing with Curiosity now. And again, the technologies we're going are unbelievable. You heard probably, I'm assuming you heard from Lisa if you were there for the Langley presentation about Irving, the inflatable re-entry vehicle that we tried here recently out of Wallace. Pretty cool technology. Hopefully that will be something we can expand to be a different way to lower things to the surface of Mars. You know, we're kind of at our limits right now. And if you look at what we put on Mars with the 1 kilogram Curiosity, with that system that we put in there, you can only go about 2 kilograms. If we're going to take humans, it's about 70. Right? We're talking about a 70 kilogram kind of vehicle. The Martian atmosphere is not as thick as ours, and therefore you've got to figure out a way to slow down. You know, we can get there fast. The problem's not getting there. The problem's slowing down, so we don't overreach. But that's what we're doing, right? I mean, that's what we're doing from an agency perspective, kind of highlights. But what's different now is it's not just NASA. It's not just us. I mean, look at Blue Origin. You ever heard of Blue Origin in here? Hopefully. This crowd should have, of course. I mean, they just completed their first integrated pad abort test for their vehicle, right? Virgin, Galactic, completed drop test on White Knight 2, and moving on incredibly fast. Export, another company out there that's doing suborbital flights, working on suborbital flights. And many of them, I mean, I can't list them all. When I came out of school, there was none of that. You know, there wasn't any of that there. So we've kind of got this industry split, and it's pretty cool. So the whole concept of us being out of business, far from it. Very, very, very busy. So that's the present. So let's talk about the future. This is what I really want you guys to kind of hang on to for tonight. You know, there's no way to predict the future of space flight. If you would have told me 30 years ago what we have done and what we've been able to accomplish, yeah, I'm sure it's not at the pace a lot of people would like, but we're still making progress. And I think it doesn't come easy. It requires a sustained national and even international commitment. You know, to me, our job, why do we do this? You know, and we were talking about the why earlier. I was chuckling at this because we have this whole thing. We always want to talk about the what or the how, right? We forget sometimes to remind people about the why. And what we're doing here is we're trying to inspire folks. We're trying to push the envelope on knowledge, right? We're trying to make life better on this planet by going to other planets and understanding how they got to where they got to. I would tell you that the thing that worries me is we all build off each other. When I came into this business, I came into this business on the shoulders of the Apollo team and a lot of people that started shuttle, right? So you've got to continue that. And once that chain gets broken, or if that chain ever gets broken, if you guys weren't here, it's hard to rebuild that chain. And that's what excites me about having you guys here. You know, great nations, in my opinion, have always explored. They've always pushed the boundaries, and space is that next kind of frontier, not to quote Star Trek. You know, I hope it's not the final frontier, but maybe it is, I don't know. You know, countries that don't choose to explore, they get left behind. And the United States has not only chosen to explore, we typically lead. And a lot of the countries will come with us if we lead. A lot of the meetings I sit in, they'll say, we really want to be part of this, but we need you to lead. And that's where we're going to go. You know, sooner than you probably realize, and most of you in this room, you're going to be responsible for this national treasure that I consider our thirst to explore as human beings a national treasure. And you'll have more opportunities. You'll take over from leaders of today. You'll have more opportunities, whether it's within the realm of the government, within the realm of your own company, or within the realm of another company that's out there. You know, in the end, it is always up to the engineers, scientists, the talents, and to turn this vision into a reality. And don't forget that. You notice I added accountants in there. And that wasn't just because you were here, by the way, it's already in my notes. Don't forget. You can have the best engineering idea in the world, but you need somebody to fund it, and you need somebody to make sure you're performing the right way from a business perspective. It's very important to remember that. I think, or you won't turn it into reality. One of the things I've been talking about lately, Warner Brown would have been 100 years old this year. And I think he's truly one of the visionaries that we've had in this country. Of course, it humbled me mightily to be the 11th center director at Marshall Space Flight Center when he was the first, and see his picture on the wall every time I went into that building. Talk about not worthy. Unbelievable. But among the many legacies he left us were his great vision and his ability to communicate that vision. There was a magazine that you guys may not know about called Collier's Magazine years ago. And he has all his drawings and sketches, and you know what? They're still a classic. Space station, space planes, the voyage to the moon, and then a fleet of ships to Mars. Right? I think his vision is very much alive today. It's alive in you guys, whether you know it or not. And some of that reality, some of it's reality. Some of it we're still working on, and it can't happen soon enough. You know, I think, if you think about being a kid in the backseat of a car on a long trip, what do they always say? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? When are we going to get there? Why is it taking so long? I'm tired. And I kind of consider myself now in this position kind of close to the front seat, if not in the front seat, at least from an agency perspective. And what I'll tell you is be patient. Right? We're going to get there. We're on our way. And one day you guys are going to be driving that car. A couple things that this is for your scar tissue, or from my scar tissue to share with you. Passion and hard work are going to be prerequisites for anything you do in this business with exploration. Passion being the first you're going to put there. But there's nothing more exciting, more challenging, and frankly more rewarding than this business. Just think about it. I mean, you're trying to get off this planet and do things somewhere else. I mean, it's an incredible endeavor. And you're going to have some challenges, and guess what? You're going to fail sometimes. And I started sharing this with folks because we live in a world where there's a famous statement: failure is not an option. Okay, and people hang on that every chance they get. But you know what? Sometimes you're going to fail, and it's not the failure that I worry about. It's how do we react to that failure? How do we learn? How do we grow? There's a famous quote, and I'm going to just read it to you. And I'm sorry, I used to know it off the top of my head, but I guess I'm getting old, and I just don't remember it as well anymore. So I have to write it down. But this is the quote from Teddy Roosevelt, "Man in the arena." How many have heard it? Hands up. Okay, good, we got a few. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again. Because there is no effort without error or shortcoming. But who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself for a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold, timid souls who neither knew victory nor defeat. I encourage you to read that. I've got that framed in my office, and when things don't go well, I'm reminded the best way to fail, or the best way not to fail, is to not do anything. I mean, people have seen the James Webb Space Telescope video, the top 5 reasons why you should like James Webb Space Telescope. It's some crazy thing on YouTube. Y'all seen it? If you hadn't seen it, you ought to go look at it. It's this guy who's really excited about James Webb. I mean, he's like really excited. I think he's had about 3 Red Bulls. But it's a great video. It's a great video. Because and one of the things that I took from that video is he says, you know, he says we could play a soccer game, we could put a ball in the middle of the soccer field, and we could all go defend our goals. Stand in front of the goal. And guess what? Nobody will score. Nobody will win. Nobody will lose. It'll be a tie. That's not what we do. We dare to do great things in this country and in this agency of NASA. To paraphrase our administrator who said something the other day as we were moving Atlantis over to the Kennedy Space Center, Visitor Center, that was a great line. We're not running a history agency, we're running a future agency. We're not done exploring, we're just getting started. You know, we always talk about this agency and what we're doing in terms of vehicles, and it's the what. I love to come earlier, it's the what. We're here, what did we talk about? We talked about the shuttle, I did it, space station. But I'm gonna tell you, I want you to tell you what the real key to this future is for space exploration. You look around you, okay? You see it yet? It's you guys, I'm gonna give you a couple hints. Curiosity landing, I was fortunate enough to be in the room when we landed on Mars. And I got goosebumps from, and I still get them, thinking about the first thumbnail that showed up within about 5 minutes of us being on Mars. Never can imagine how I got so excited about something that had already happened by the time I heard about it. And it was such a great experience. But you know, about 20 years from now, you know what I'm going to remember? I'm not going to remember that thumbnail, and I'm not going to remember that rover being on Mars. I'll remember that team that I was standing with in that room. I'm going to remember their passion, their sense of humor, their perseverance, everything that they did to celebrate, and their ability, frankly, to celebrate success. Okay? You used to see us NASA guys like this, right? In the time ago. Those guys had their golf shirts on and they were jumping around having a blast. And it was great to be part of that. Then about a year ago, as I watched the last shuttle launch and then ultimately the landing, ended a pretty successful career in getting the station built. I don't even hardly remember, I'm just telling you guys, I don't even hardly remember Atlantis lifting off the pad. What I remember is as it went up, I looked out over the control room, which I was very fortunate to be sitting in. And they were my buddies, my friends, my colleagues that I knew had persevered from 2004 when we said we're going to retire the shuttle. We're going to work you out of a job. Right? We're going to work you out of a job. And what did they do? Flipped them off and got that space station built. That's what I remember, is those people. In the end, you know, what we've discovered is that it's the people we remember the most. That we, you, not that spaceship on the tarmac, created a lasting legacy that you guys get to pick up and run with. I'm jealous, right, of what you're going to get to go do. Things that I wasn't going to get to go do. And when I grew up saying that every day I stood on the shoulders of giants at Marshall Space Flight Center. I stood on Werner and Brown and the rocket team that got us to the moon, right? I got to pick up that legacy. And what I discovered is I was standing with giants every day. And that was my team. That was the guys that were helping us be successful. And you guys are going to feel that and understand it. I hope you get to feel that at least. And frankly, I'm very much looking forward to be sitting on a porch someday in my retirement, marveling at the things you guys will accomplish. Knowing you're going to feel as jazzed as I do about what you got done. And also knowing I'm going to be damn jealous that I'm not there with you. Because you're going to get to take us to places that I won't get to go to. So what I tell you is you take up the challenge as our country's next generation of scientists and engineers. If you take that challenge up, I just ask one thing of you, right? Dare to do great things. Keep this dream of exploration alive and help us to keep making the impossible possible. Thank you all very much. All right, Will says we got 5 or 10 minutes for questions. I hate to
Don't be shy.
You guys ask hard questions. I've already been told by my colleagues. They warned me. Anything? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Figure I'll lead with the hard questions. There's been a lot of talk about this conference about, I guess, one of the ultimate goals and reasons why we're all here, the eventual settlement of space. What do you see as NASA's role in this? Do you see NASA as actually going out and settling, or as leading the path for others, or something else?
A little bit of all of that. I think our job is, there's 2 things. Our job is to set the vision of why we want to go do that, right? You can't tell the public, we're just going to go settle space, because we got all the economic conditions. You got to tell them why we're doing it. So that's our job. Sometimes we do that well, sometimes we don't do that well. The other thing is to take our budget, the pieces of our budget that we get in our side, and start working on the technologies that actually enable that to happen. Because there's a lot that are needed if we're actually going to go do it. There's a lot. The other thing that we need is very frankly, we need a quiet rise of noise from people like you in your age to remind this country that it's important for us to go do this. We have to have sustainable budget, sustainable process, and to tell people, hey, this is important. This is why you're here. This is why you went to school. This is what you want to go do. And you know that we're going to need that. We're going to need that noise, frankly. Friends, I had an old boss. I just said this. I had an old boss that used to say, we did a shuttle launch. How many saw a shuttle launch before we went to flying? That's pretty good. That's a good crowd. I can remember a boss of mine talking to a school teacher that we sent to a shuttle launch because she had sent a note to him. She was from, I want to say Indiana or Iowa, I can't remember which one, but she was from somewhere in the Midwest. And she sent him a note that said, I don't understand the big deal about this space exploration stuff. So he invited her to a shuttle launch. She sent him a note back about 2 weeks later and said, wow, his tears are running down my face as that thing lifted off the ground. I think I found out why. She got it, right? She got the passion behind what we were doing. Because part of coming to the launch wasn't just the launch, it was learning what we were doing, what we're trying to do. So I think that's our challenge. Communication and doing our challenge. Technically, there's a lot of hurdles, right? We just got to go start knocking them down. The advantage to bringing in the commercial folks is there's a lot of good ideas that people can go try that we can't necessarily push those boundaries in the government like they can in private industry. And eventually what we'll do is we'll get a business case going. Once the business case gets going, all bets are off. I mean, I think that'll be how we go do this. But it's a long way to go. But we got, again, you got to stick to it. If you're looking for instant gratification, you're in the wrong business. I'll just tell you, it is a long journey. You know, we starts and stops, but as long as we've got the same plan, we'll do okay. Any other questions?
I'll ask one if I can.
Yes.
Unless there was a student. Oh, go to the student. Fix the student.
I just want to say, you didn't use a single PowerPoint, and it's one of the best.
My question is, as young people become young professionals, and they're joining a workforce of people who are all very talented, very smart, what are things they can do to distinguish themselves in the first few years of their career so they catch your attention?
That's a great question. I'll tell you exactly what I tell everybody I mentor. I mentor a lot of younger folks. At least I did when I was at Marshall, because we have several programs. What I will tell you, you should do the first thing is be patient. Okay? Be patient. You're going to want to be a center director in about a year after you start. So be patient. The second thing I'll tell you is get something that you do and you do it better than anybody else. Okay? So that you become the person they call when problem fill in blank comes up. You're the go-to person. Own it. Own it. Take the time to get to that point. After you get to that point where you own something, then you can start moving around. But I highly encourage everybody to say, I am the blank expert at wherever. Your company, your organization, take the first, my number is 5 years. Okay, I know that. My daughter tells me 5 years, it's like forever. 5 years and become the absolute best at something. Focus on it. And at that point, then but becoming the best at something, you will get scar tissue that will apply to everything else you're trying to do from here on out. You will always, I pull back, I can just tell you this, I pull back on test stand experiences every day. Every day. I laugh at some of them, right? Because some of them aren't experiences I need to share. But they're there. They're scar tissue in my system that keep me from hopefully not doing it again. But then there's experiences I had that were very successful, and I've done moving forward from there as well. So that would be my advice. One more. Oh, wait. Yes.
If there's one thing that you wish you could see the agency do before you retire, what would it be?
Where's Mary? Sure, Professor. No. If I had the one thing that I would like to see us do, and it's probably going to surprise you what my answer is. Our average age right now is about 48. I'd like to see it be about 40. Less than that eventually, but by the time I retire, if we get to 40, it'll be a Christmas miracle. So, but that's what I'd like to do. We have to turn this over. We've got to turn it over in a way that we get folks in time to share that knowledge, pass that knowledge on. I mean, that's the part that's what I'd like to see us do.
I think there was one last one over
Somebody
here.
here? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people here would agree with the philosophy that a well-funded NASA would really motivate children to enter into sciences, math, domains. How can we help accomplish that? How can we as students help allow NASA to become better funded?
Be that voice. Be that loud majority that reminds them that it is. I mean, right now it's not, there's 12, I think, I get the numbers wrong. I'm still new to DC, I haven't got the numbers wrong. I think it's like 12 senators and probably only about 25 or 30 House members. We look, we're all the choir here, right? We love this stuff, right? I can walk into some people and they have no idea what we're doing. There's people that don't know we even have a space station on orbit, and some of them don't even know we quit flying a shuttle. I mean, I literally had a guy tell me, "So when you're flying a shuttle again?" I'm going, "We just sparked them all." We flew at the top of the 747. That was it. But I really, the other thing that you can do though, it's not just get work the public support side of it, right? The other thing you can do is you guys, because you're better at it than I am, get into middle schools. That's where we lose people. That's where we lose the next generation of science engineers is in middle school. Every study tells you that. And our focus lately in the STEM world has been get them in middle school. Go grab you guys. Think back when you guys got excited. When was it that you got excited about it, right? And what we find is if you don't know about middle school, that you're interested in science and engineering and math, we're done. We won't get there. Very, very rarely we get those back. So that's the two angles I'd say. Is go visit your congressman, right? You can do that. You're a public citizen. That's what we did. Or send them letters, let them know that this is important. I think it is. Whether it's NASA, whether it's Virgin, whether it's anybody, this is important because it is what. If we don't have that mission, there's nothing for people to grab onto. I mean, I think that's what we get. That's the inspiration that we bring forward to make people want to go do, make the, as I said, make the impossible possible. You've got to have a workforce that's willing to do that. All right, thanks again. I appreciate the time.
That was great. I am very glad that I spoke before the associate administrator, not after him, because otherwise I said, ditto. Would have put it as ahead of schedule, I guess, but not been quite as fun. We're now to the portion of the evening where we get to hand out awards. Which is exciting. Anyone nervous? It's Oscar nights. We have cameras trained on all of you to see your facial expressions. I suppose before we get to the listed awards, we want to get to a special one. This is, I think, only the second year that, if I remember correctly, that there has been a business plan competition at SpaceVision. I was really excited when this was started up last year. I had the honor of serving one of the judges. I think it's a really important activity. I, sort of by accident, when I had just finished graduate school, briefly started a business, and I think I learned more in the few months of doing that than I did in most of college. Staying in school was worthwhile, but that was a great experience. So I think even just doing this business plan, hopefully those of you who prepared one got a chance to speak to the judges, got asked, I'm sure, some tough questions, and had to scratch your heads on the answers. I think you'll find that a very valuable experience. So if you didn't compete this year, I encourage you to compete next year. But let's hear who won this year. So I'd like to call Jeff Ike, who is the CEO of Oracle Outfitters, a guy who knows quite a lot about business plans. He has a number of hats, so he started a number of businesses, and he'll tell you about the competition. Jeff.
Thank you, Will. There's actually, it's hard listening to all these speakers because it reminds me of so many ideas that I want to get up and start talking about. And it's like, I really just got to cut to the chase and give these awards out. But if I can take just a moment sort of to speak on behalf of all of us who are sort of the suffering entrepreneurs of this industry. I'm a relatively young guy. I'm here at 32, so I'm not that long since I was one of you guys. And when I was one of you guys, two things that are worth calling out to sort of follow up on the previous speaker. One, I can remember going to like big conferences like the AIAA conference and being one of 3 people under 30 at a 1,000-person conference. I can equally remember going out for drinks, and you gotta give me a high five on this, with the only 2 women at that conference. So, there's been a lot of changes, they're good ones, and among those changes, one of the ones that I've pretty much thrown the last 6 years of my life at has been the emergence of entrepreneurism as a standard part of the space industry. And this is a part of the industry that I really do want to sort of raise a glass to anyone who has the tenacity and temerity to sort of jump into this, because most of the areas where we think of our sort of our traditional economy, what's happening is people are saying, hey, I think I can do something that's already done a little bit better, and I know a way to make a whole lot of money at it. In the space business, what happens is people say, something doesn't exist, no one's ever paid for it commercially before, it's not clear that there are any customers, so I'm going to go out and try to convince some people to put money behind me doing exactly that. And you know what? It's working. And that's something that's pretty impressive. So I was very honored and very excited to be one of the folks who was asked to judge the business plan competitions. We had very strong folks having looked at business plan competitions that are folks who are double, triple your guys' age. You guys gave a very, very strong showing, and it was really neat to see that people had walked through the process. They'd come up with ideas that were strong. They looked at all the different ways of not only is this a good idea, but how do I execute it? How do I bring it to being a real thing? So I'm going to give out 2 awards here, just to be clear on what the first and second place awards are. Second place, which this is really very close to my heart. Second place is that we're going to send the entire team to the New Space Conference for free. We're not paying your travel, we're just paying the registration. But this is a pretty good deal. Now, as one of the people who ran the very first New Space Conference, this is a real thing close to my heart. So for that team, you're going to the New Space Conference and you're not paying registration, and more to the point, you're not having to work as a volunteer to attend. So that's pretty cool. And for the first place, we're giving $1,000 to the winning team member. So rather than spend too much longer talking about this, we'll go second place first. So the second place certificate for the business plan competition, it's the University of Buffalo SEDS. We're giving it to the iSpy team. There you are. Cool. Yep, thank you. Nice job. And for the first place, we're going Iowa State University Interplanetary Reactions. Well, as I don't know who comes next, I'm going to hand this back to Will and let Will jump in.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeff, and congratulations to all the students who competed. I hope to see you all back next year, building on the plans you presented this year, or coming up with new ones, or who knows, both. Why not? Our next award is for Best New Chapter. Those of you who have run a chapter, thought about running a chapter, know that it is challenging and rewarding. I can only imagine what it's like to start a new chapter without having that binder full of stuff, or shoebox, or whatever it is, of what your predecessor did. Having to go out, recruit the young women and men, find the mentors and the faculty advisors. New chapters are really, in many ways, the lifeblood of this organization. I think there should be a lot more of them, so I encourage you all, talk to your high school friends, talk to your cousins, get them to start SEDS chapters. But right now we get to recognize the chapter that did the best job, the new chapter that did the best job this year. And if they could please come up, the members of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Who runs the chapter? Who started it? Patrick! My friend, before we get the picture, you get to, I got the wrong one. Maybe I did it in the wrong order. All right, here you go. You get to hold that. Hopefully it fits in your luggage. Sharp object. Perfect. Having heard from our best new chapter, I get to correct the mistake I made, go back to the first one in the order, and do the best old chapter. Nothing wrong with being an old chapter, nothing wrong with that. So I'll cut right to it. Let's all please say congratulations to the SEDS chapter from Purdue. When Mr. last question about how you, the students in this room, can help NASA become what you want it to be, which requires NASA gets the money that they need to do that. And Mr. Lightfoot gave a great answer about you needing to be the voice. You need to be the voice on Capitol Hill in your local representative's office, but also you need to be the voice in the high schools, in the middle schools, the elementary schools, and the other universities in your neighborhood. And heck, also with your parents. They pay taxes. Their voices their opinions are important too. So it's important, I think, as SEDS chapters to do a lot of outreach. I've been talking to a lot of you this weekend, and I'm blown away by some of the projects that you're doing. I think I was joking with Brad and Allie earlier today that SEDS could probably double its membership if just all of you got the high schools you work with to become SEDS chapters. There's an idea. But let's congratulate the team that has the best outreach project, and hopefully their legs aren't tired from walking up here. Purdue Space Day. I'm moving through these quickly because I want us to end on time so our special guest doesn't have to leave and you can all hop in like I told you to. And then I can send him a deep apology for having sigged you all. Outreach is important, but most of you are technical backgrounds, so let's get to the best technical project. Again, awesome range of these. Tons of you are doing CubeSats, tons of you are doing rockets. A lot of you are doing instruments, some of you are flying things on Flight Opportunities Program. Really excited to hear about that, but the one that was voted the best is UV rocketry. Woo. About a year ago, SEDS entered into agreement with the Society of Satellite Professionals International, SSPI. It's a great organization, a really important organization. I think a lot of you will find yourself being members of for a long time and giving a lot of value to you. That organization is helping SEDS award a Best Satellite Project, and to award that, I would like to call up Tamara Bond, the membership director from SSPI.
I had a speech all planned out, but I'm kind of blown away by your energy and by the speeches that have preceded me, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I just want to introduce happily the winner of the Satellite Prize, and thank you all for including a Satellite Prize because it's an important piece of the space puzzle. I'd like to call up the team that did the BUSAT project. BUSAT. BUSAT.
There we go.
Okay. Motion open. As part of this, As part of this, you know, my friend Mike here, he has a habit of jumping the gun with stuff. You know, last year he had joined us at the SSPI Gala, and we had gifts on the table. And everybody was reaching for the gifts, and I said, oh, it's a this. And I said, thank you. Did you do this for Christmas also? Congratulations. you get the real one to get some money.
You're the responsible one.
Thanks so much.
That would make a great down payment on the Virgin Galactic flight homes. By show of hands, how many of you have heard the story of how SEDS was born, how the club was created? All right, most of you, a good chunk of you. If you haven't, find any of the alums later tonight. I can tell that it would take many hours. I'm happy to tell you over a beer. So are a lot of the other alums here. So find us later tonight. A lot of us will be hanging out, and we're too happy to share it. But suffice it to say, it was founded mainly by two gentlemen, Peter Diamandis, who you've all gotten to know, although he wasn't able to be here this year. Went on to found X Prize Foundation and ISU and 1,000,001 other things, planetary resources. But the other guy in the program you probably don't much about, because unfortunately he passed away quite some time ago. But Todd Hawley was in many ways the heart behind SEDS. You know, if Peter was the Red Bull, the ball of energy, you know, Todd was the guy who could instantly relate to anyone, who could learn a new language in a few weeks, who could really carry this organization and be the passionate sort of peace-loving hippie behind it. And he went on to be a leader in this organization, and then in SpaceVision, which is sort of thematically linked with this, and then at ISU, and he really displayed through action his leadership in this organization. And even if you've never met him, his legacy has touched you today. So I think it's quite appropriate that the award for student leadership at SEDS is named the Todd Hawley Award for Student Leadership. I think it's equally appropriate. Who won it this year? Our fearless leader, Dan. We're now to our last award of the evening. Now, I said earlier tonight, I said at my panels yesterday, SpaceVision is the conference to which I look forward the most. I go to a lot of conferences. This is the one that's the most fun. This is the one I'll take the vacation days to come to. I always look forward to it. This year, it was a little bit bittersweet, though, because I knew, although I get to see a lot of old friends, pardon me, there'd be one who was missing. Can you raise your hands if any of you got to know Daryl Kane? Daryl was a pretty spectacular guy. I got to know him through SEDS. I got to know him through working with him at the X Prize Foundation. He was an excellent fellow. He was tireless in his passion. He was driven, but he was kind and gentle, and he came up with a 1,000,001 great ideas. I know all of you can share stories about it. We were telling stories about Daryl at dinner tonight. Everything from the crazy way that he drove to the wonderful songs that he sang, but also a lot about what he did for this organization in terms of help starting up SpaceVision. Some of you may know that there were SpaceVisions in the past, and then there was a long period where there were no SpaceVisions. And it was, I think, 8 years ago that SpaceVision came back, in large part due to Daryl. You heard earlier this weekend about the SEDS Endowment Fund, about SEDS getting its finances in order, which had been way out of order for a really long time. That was all because of Daryl. A lot of you probably are in this organization because you met Daryl at one of those conferences. And you know, he was a big teddy bear of a guy, and his enthusiasm about this probably got you really excited. We have two special guests here today, Daryl's dad and his brother. You've probably gotten to know some of them earlier. I'm going to call Daryl's dad up in a minute. We were considering asking some of you to come up and share your thoughts and memories about Daryl, and then we decided we don't have this restaurant for that long. That would take us all evening. I encourage you to find his family, share your personal thoughts of that. But also, knowing Daryl, and maybe you knew him better than I did, but even the extent I know Daryl wouldn't want this to be a somber thing. He would want this to be a celebration of who he is, who he was, and the person who's going to win the award that's in his name. So in that spirit, you all have, or at least had in front of you, a glass of champagne. And I wonder if we can offer a quick toast. There. To Daryl. And with that, perhaps I'll pass the floor off to another Daryl candidate. Daryl.
Yes, my name is Daryl. And my father's name is Daryl. And my son did not have a brother named Daryl. As alluded to, I'm an accountant, financier, and economist. That's what I do. I speak all over the place. Actually, some in the United States and Europe, some. And I don't think in 20 years I've ever had notes. But I'm afraid that tonight requires notes. Not because I have a lot to say, but because I don't know if I can say it. I want to thank you for the honor of allowing us to present an award in my son's name. The award is, as I understand it, is for passion and commitment, in particular to SEDS, which is something Daryl really loved. Sounds a little macabre, it wasn't in my notes. We buried Daryl in a SEDS t-shirt. That's how important SEDS was to Daryl. I know many of you may not know him. And in particular, 5 to 10 years from now, as they're trying to give this award to someone who represents passion and care for SEDS, they particularly, no one will know him. But hopefully what they'll know is the last person who got the award, or the person right before that who got the award. And what they'll see is out of that award is it was about somebody that really cared about the mission and the opportunity of SEDS. So Daryl was a son. He has a great-grandmother. He has all his grandparents, except for 2. But he has a number of grandparents. He has 2 brothers, 2 sisters, 2 stepbrothers, and an adopted brother. I don't know if you realize they had that many. Anyway. He has 11 aunts and uncles, sets of aunts and uncles, 11 sets, 40 first cousins. He was an important person. What I want to tell you a little bit is about the what of Daryl, and then I'll tell you the who of Daryl, and I want to tell you the why, which is what we were talking about. The why is the most important part. So I'll leave you with the why. But some of the what. He was born August 25th, 1985. It's a memorable day. That's the day of Neil Armstrong died. So I'll always remember that. It's an important day. He died July the 30th of this year. He was 6'5", about 280 pounds. He's a big guy. He could grow a beard faster than any human being I've ever met. He could shave, and 3 weeks later, he had a full beard. I have never been able to grow a beard, ever. And he could do that. As he mentioned, Daryl went to MIT. He worked actually at NASA Ames for a while. He also was with the X-Prize Foundation. He did help recreate this conference starting back at MIT. I guess it was 2004. Yep. 2004. He was the leader in that. He did get the SEDS reinstated as a 2503C charitable organization. That was really his mission. He had a little help from his dad. We actually have a trust company. It's one of our companies. That company is committed to supporting SEDS, obviously into the future, for good reason. He also spent a lot of time as the chair, I believe, of chapter relations. I don't know if that's the right title. Is that the right title? Or was he tirelessly trying to create new chapters? And the importance of that is when you get to why. Because that was why that was important to him. When he reached out, I was hearing You know, this was really a wonderful time for me to sit with you, Daryl's peers and friends, and hear about, he reached out and rediscovered the chapter in England. Is that right? He loved to try to connect with people. Daryl was a person who, even though he was really busy and did a lot of stuff, he was always willing to help you if you needed help. If you needed something, he would be there. That's why sometimes I talk to him, oh, Dad, I've been up for 2 solid days. Well, why is that? Can't you do your homework in a reasonable time? Well, I was helping this person, I was helping that person. Let's talk a little bit more about who Daryl was. You have heard, some of you, some driving stories about Daryl. Daryl, being my first son, I never got in the car with him when he was learning to drive. I gave that job to his stepmother, my wife. She was terrorized by it. Daryl's the only child I've had, I remember with 7, I guess with the adopted child now, 8 children. I've gone through a lot of cars in my life. I did a fleet rate, I think I own 11 cars. But, none of them are worth more than $4,000 because, why buy a car that's going to be destroyed, right? Daryl is my only child that totaled the car and never hit anything. This to me was a great achievement, which I did not understand. For those of you that are great engineers, I'm the only one probably that's not an engineer, when you drive a car through standing water and you're in the middle of water, do not turn off the engine. This sucks all the water into the hot engine and it busts the entire, it busts the whole engine. So that's what he did. For those of you that didn't know, Daryl was also an avid dancer. He could dance. And he was in the theater. And I'll explain for you for a minute why he was in the theater. Starting back in his childhood, Daryl, like his grandfather and his father and all of his brothers, was a severe dyslexic. And actually, when he was in 1st grade, he was in this private school, and they told us to take him out because they didn't think he was ever going to finish school. Because they didn't think, it's dyslexic when you're 1st grade and you can't read. Something must be wrong with you. This kind of creates, sometimes you become shy. So to overcome Daryl's shyness, one of the things that I did, which he did, was like, well, what you got to do is go do the thing you don't want to do. So he became a public speaker in the theater, and he was in all his high school plays. He had pretty much all the leads. And at MIT, I think he had leads in like 10 different musicals. His most, one that's my favorite, in the Children of Eden, he played God. Daryl was a very imposing God, and he only grew the only beard I knew that was ever fitting. He had a giant baritone voice, and he loved to sing. But he was shy. If he was around, you wouldn't get him just to sing unless he would do that. But when he stepped on stage, he got to be a different person. And he got to be totally different. And he got to do that. It was his escapism. He said, that was my hobby during school, to get away from my sets of problems, what were my math sets. Dyslexics are also severely good at math, and Daryl seemed to really be good at that. One of the other things that I think can be important, besides his ability and love to sing and be in theater, is most importantly is why he got interested in space. Now, I'm a little older. I'm really 60. I'm closer to 60 than I am 50. Maybe, I guess I'm supposed to be proud of that, I guess. I'll round up. My childhood consisted of, I grew up in Kansas City, clipping all the newspaper articles about Mercury and friendship and Apollo. And by the time the Apollo 11 mission came, I had a scrapbook that was like 4 feet tall of all the clippings of all the stories about space. But I was not the person who created the energy in Daryl about space. When he was in kindergarten, first grade, the same school that told him he was never going to be successful, he went to school with one of Gentry Lee's children. And once a month, Gentry Lee would come to the school and do a 1-hour presentation on space. And Daryl was 6. And he would come home all fired up about space. And it was just something important to him. Growing up as a kid, I read a lot of science fiction. It's one of the other things you do as a dyslexic. You compensate for the fact, like in my case, I didn't learn to read until I was in the 3rd grade. I compensated for that by reading a lot of books. It's kind of like I'm going to get better at this. When Daryl was 8, he read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Heinlein. His mother caught him at that. Somewhat about the scenes of group sex were kind of disturbing. He was 8 years old. He read it anyway, not with her knowledge. By the time he was 10 or 11, he had finished all the Foundation series by Asimov. And Daryl will always be the leader of my second foundation. Daryl believed in SEDS because he knew that he wasn't going to get to his goal by himself. In your mission statement, you talk about being a spacefaring people. That was always Daryl's dream. When he was a kid, we would talk about how I would go out and get the money because I was good at that. He would make me figure out how to get off the rock. You know, the science of that. I was never good at science. I dissected my first frog in 8th grade and I hated it. I never had any more math in Algebra 2. So I became a CPA. Add, subtract, multiply, divide, and on occasion we do percentages, but that's about it. As you said, the economics are very important. If you don't understand the economics, which I love history, and history has a lot to do with economics, you can't do that. Daryl was different. He loved the science and the math and the whole thought process. His goal in life was, which was our goal, was he would figure out how to get off the planet and we would send his son. We don't get to do that with Daryl's son. But it was always his dream he would do that with your sons and daughters. And that's why he was so committed to SEDS. He believed that the difference will always be made by the few, not by the many. I listened to, the esteemed gentleman at NASA, which I'm a giant supporter of his. But I'm a believer that the world is changed by a few people who are absolutely committed, and that they speak the why of why they're committed. Not the what or the how or the who, but why. Daryl was committed to SEDS because the why was the mission of the organization, was his mission in life, which was we as a humanity need an ability to exit our planet for the future of our worlds. And that's what he believed in. And that's a big vision. That way circumvents or exceeds the job that you're going to get, and the fact I know you need to make a living and you got to do all those things. And believe me, I do a lot of mentoring just because I have so many freaking children. And I believe in independence and you have your own job. So what I want to do is invite my son Charlie, who is Daryl's youngest brother. Charlie, would you come up here? And I don't know what the things you want to hand out are here. But as I said, we're going to give an award, not to Daryl, we're going to give an award to someone who represents the passion and the desire to spread the word of SEDS and help people enroll into the vision of what is in your mission statement. If you haven't read it lately, go do so. Mission statements are important if it gives us the center of the why of what we do. This award also has a financial remuneration that has been endowed by our family ongoingly. And in the future, it's of course our desire that you give the award. And maybe not everyone will always understand who Daryl King was, but maybe they'll remember the person who last got the award, and that will make a big difference. And the committee that has decided that Rick Hampton should receive this award this year. The financial remuneration that goes with the award is $3,000.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kane. Thank you, Charlie, for sharing some stories that make us laugh and smile as we remember our friend. Rick, we're all watching you, no pressure. Yeah, a very deserving winner. I was happy to see that one too. And I feel fired up. I remember why I do this stuff. Like I said earlier, I love my job. I work pretty hard at it anyway, but I think I'll be working a little harder after that. Sitting next to me tonight, who I'll introduce later, and he said, which I think is very true, when people get excited about a cause, they don't get excited about what you're doing, they get excited about why you're doing that. And that's definitely true of space. Tell them why you took your weekend to go away from your home school, or you took a lot more than one weekend to plan a conference to come hang out with other space geeks. Tell them why that was worthwhile to you, and I think you'll find that that's a very effective thing. I want to do a little bit of audience participation to make sure everyone can hear me. Can I ask, please raise your hands if any of you have ever worked at NASA. All right, it's a pretty good percentage. Now, we're not done yet. You have to keep raising hands. Stretch a little bit if you need to. How many of you have ever dreamed of working at NASA? Have any of you raise both hands if you ever literally had a dream where you were working? We got a couple of those. Well, that's good. I know you're going to enjoy our speaker tonight. Hopefully you've also recognized, I can't remember the last time I've been to any space conference, not just a SpaceVision, where there have been this many senior leaders from NASA. It's really impressive. And that to me says something about the students who organized it. It says something about you. It also says something about the kind of people who came. They all had other options of places to be on a Friday night or a Saturday night. They all have kids, they all have spouses, they all have tons of work sitting on their desk, and they took the time to be here, which means that they care about you, not in that standard way that everyone says they care about kids. In the way that they generally are putting their money where their mouth is, they're putting their time out, because they want to talk to you. They want to see, it's the same reason I come to SpaceVision every year, whether my job sends me or not, because I get excited to talk to you. You ask me the best questions, and the look of excitement on your face makes me feel better about my job and why I bust my butt. So I hope you've taken advantage of that. Can I do a little bit more participation here? How many of you, because of something you heard this weekend or in the run-up to SpaceVision, have changed your minds about what you want to do in your life? All right. That's a worthwhile conference if anyone raises their hands. This is a pretty good number. How many of you have talked to someone at a company that you want to work for, or a space agency you want to work for? You picked a good conference company. How many of you have gotten a business card from that person and have already sent them a follow-up email, or at least composing it? If you haven't done that, do that. How many of you have passed out a resume? All right, a couple. If you didn't this year, think about doing it next year. It's not tacky. People who come to this conference, a lot of them are here because we want to hire young people. That's why a lot of the companies here, everyone who has a booth in the exhibit hall, that's why they're here. Companies that send executives, it's because they know that companies that have an edge in the future, NASA to maintain its leadership in this industry, we need the best and the brightest. You heard from Alan Ladwick today, you heard from lots of other people out the weekend, the average age of this industry, the number of people who are going to be retiring over the coming years. We have big seats to fill, and we can't fill them with just anyone. We need to fill them with people who are really smart, really passionate, people who have the SEDS badge on their lapel. It's the key thing. Has anyone formed a business this weekend or come up with the idea for a new business they want to start? All right, awesome. Wow. This table had a good dinner. Was it tonight? Did it just happen like just now? Are we witnessing? All right. Later on, more drinks. A few drinks later. Okay. Anyone come up with an idea for an experiment they're going to propose to Flight Opportunities Program? Does anyone at my top? All right, there you go. Awesome. This is great that these answers are yes. I'm about to yield the stage to our guest speaker, but the last message that I'm going to give you is be bold. That's one of the exciting things about being young. You are bold. It's part of your personality. Even if you think of yourself as shy, because, I don't know, you're an engineer, you're willing to take risks. You are at the perfect point in your life to take risks. This is the time, very few of you are married, even fewer of you have children. This is the time when you can go for that job that sounds crazy, that your parents will say, why on earth are you doing that job? Because you're passionate about it, because it might pay out, because it might give you something that you can't get by going into banking. No offense to our bankers, we've got at least one here. It's harder to take those risks when you're in your 30s and harder still in your 40s because you've got a family to support. You have to be a little bit more conservative. You can be bold now. And bold might mean starting your own business, like table number, whatever table number this is. But 13, lucky number 13. It also means don't be shy. Take advantage of these opportunities you're getting here at SpaceVision. Go and talk to that speaker and ask them a question. Even if you're worried it might be a dumb question, if you're worried that she's already heard it a million times, ask the question anyway. Ask for that business card. Send them an email. Remind them.
I'm going to turn the microphone over now to Will Pomerantz.
All right. Hi everyone. Everyone enjoyed their meal? Yeah. Who got the beef and is anyone still hungry? That's a big piece of beef. I'm Will Pomerantz. I work at Virgin Galactic now, but more importantly, I'm a SEDS alum. I'm a SEDS trustee. I love my job, I love my career, and I can honestly say I owe it all to joining SEDS by lucky coincidence my freshman year in college. So it's a real honor to be here and talking to you all. Before I begin, could I ask all of the students from UB SEDS to stand up quickly? Let's give these guys the opportunity. I'll admit I was born in Buffalo. And even when I heard that this next conference was going to be in Buffalo, I was like, really? Buffalo? In November? Okay. Let's see how that goes. But it's gone great. It's really been a tremendous list of speakers, including but not limited to our guest speaker tonight. From start to finish, it's been a good show. I hope you're all having a good time. I certainly am. The theme of the conference this year is Crossroads, which I think is a great theme. Whoever chose it, I don't know. Good job. Because I think the space industry is at a crossroads. But the problem is that the public doesn't realize we're at the crossroads. They think we're at a dead end, which is incorrect. You know, you all have probably experienced this when you talk to your family back home, your high school friends, even your roommates. I'm sure someone has told you, but NASA is canceled. I hope that you're not shy in correcting them of that. Because they're going to go on believing that until someone who's passionate about it, so someone who works in the career or works in the industry, wants to work in the industry, takes the time. Because don't count on, no offense to the members of the media here, don't count on the media to disillusion them of that. The media sort of illusioned them of that, if I can coin a phrase. So take the time to tell them what is going on in space and tell them why you're excited about it. Nothing conveys passion like passion. I was just talking with a gentleman where you met them. I met you at SpaceVision. I really enjoyed your talk about X, Y, and Z. I was the young person who asked you about X, Y, and Z, and I really want to work for you. Are you willing to be my mentor? Are you willing to give me an internship? I'll come work for you for free, or at least really cheap. That's the other nice part about being a student. Those of you who raised your hands when I asked, have you always dreamed of working at NASA? If you don't come up and talk to our guest speaker after tonight, if you haven't already, you're not doing yourselves any favors. You're not going to get that opportunity all the time. When you go back to your university, unless any of you are here from George Washington or something right next to NASA headquarters, you're not going to just get to have dinner with a guy like this. Or like the other wonderful speakers that we've had throughout the weekend. So if you haven't done it, do it tonight, do it tomorrow, come prepared to do it next year. And come prepared to do it when you host a SpaceVision a couple of years from now or next year, whatever it is. That's a great way. I got the first job that I truly loved, I got by helping host a conference. I wasn't even running it. I was playing a small part in it, and that's what mattered. So if you don't remember anything else, I say, I hope you remember, be bold. You're students. We're here because we love talking to students, and take full advantage of that. So with that, I want to introduce our guest speaker tonight, Robert Lightfoot. Robert is the Associate Administrator at NASA. Now that is the highest ranked, period, civil servant at the entire agency at NASA. The number one. This is a pretty cool guy here. You got a good chance to hand him a resume, get a business card. I don't know how many business cards you got, but my goal is that you don't have any left he's been in that job at headquarters for a few months now. But before that, was running Marshall Space Flight Center. How many of you have been to Marshall Space Flight Center or Space Camp for internships? Okay, I hope the rest of you will go there in the future. It's a center that's doing a lot of amazing things. He's got a distinguished bio, which a lot of you have seen in your program, so I won't insult your intelligence by just reading it to you, but just to hit another few key points. We were chatting at dinner. I know he feels about students the way that the other speakers here have, is why I didn't mind saying this. And hopefully he hasn't glaring daggers at my back while I've been saying it. He also has gotten to do some pretty amazing things. He was in DC for several years working on the Return to Flight program, and I was asking him, what was that like? And it's a job that was not necessarily just an engineering job, it was a job about leadership. He's a recipient of some distinguished leadership awards, and it's a job that's about communications. He has a job that to me seems unfathomably difficult, which is he had to explain how NASA works to members of Congress. Anyone know how many members of Congress are engineers? Or doctors?
11.
Yeah, I think it's 0. I might be wrong, but I think 0 are engineers, and very few of them have a technical degree of any kind. So anyone who can do that, or is even willing to try certain things, earn my admiration. And it tells me that he's going to be a very effective communicator. So please give him your full attention. He's going to chat for, I think, just 15 minutes or so, and then we'll leave us lots of time for questions. So without further ado.
All right, well, good evening. It is great to be here. One thing we didn't say is I'm just going to get it out of my system now. I'm a University of Alabama grad, and I'm hurting a little bit tonight because Texas A&M. So all you Aggies out there, congratulations. So my Johnson Space Center friends have been lighting me up all night, reminding me that I think I said something probably that I shouldn't have earlier here, like welcome to the SEC, and they said they're glad to be here. So it is great to be here tonight, and Will, thanks for the introduction. I really appreciate it, and Mary, thank you so much for harassing all of us and sneaking in. We got all these rules going on right now in the agency that are pretty funny, related to conferences, and Mary somehow managed to get around that. That's why I got so many senior leaders here. And you did great getting everybody here. And really the reason we're here is because you guys are our future. You guys are going to, hopefully one of you will be standing here one day, giving a speech to the next generation of folks that are talking. I think if you look at the agenda that you guys had for the week, it is truly a microcosm of this space business today. It is different. It's really an incredible and exciting time for you guys to be entering this field. Challenging too. I think that's always been true. We've been through cycles. When you get into this business, it can be frustrating. So be ready for that, but it can also be the most rewarding thing you'll ever do. I can't imagine doing anything else. I mean, I'm a space geek at heart, and I think what I'm going to do is kind of walk you through what I think you guys have in front of you. And to do that,